All right, a lot of new Etsy sellers struggle with getting their first couple of sales. And then after that, they struggle even more building the momentum to get 50 sales, 100 sales, 500 sales. So, what helps you get your first couple of sales can help you get the next 500, 1,000 sales if you follow this strategy that I'm going to talk about today. I've learned a couple of things in Etsy over the last decade that has helped me get to this point that I can help you guys out with. My best performing shop here has reached over $550,000 in income and overall sales, which I never thought was possible. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just showing you what is possible if you stick with it and are consistent with it. And that's took me years and years to learn. So let's dive into this. This is the framework to get you from 0 to your first couple sales to 100 to 500 and beyond. Once you can get a couple hundred sales, you're usually good to go if you're following this framework. And here's kind of the journey that I want to talk about that a lot of people just don't realize that they're going to go through, so that you have the right kind of mindset going in. And this is the entrepreneur journey. This isn't just Etsy. This isn't just an Etsy journey thing. Entrepreneurs go through this journey because it is psychological. Our human brain is trying to protect us. So when things get tough or complicated, it tells us to stop and quit. And that's why a lot of people stop and quit, which I don't want you guys to do. So phase one is uninformed optimism. So we don't really know what to expect. We're excited about starting this journey. We're excited about starting our new business, right? Then very quickly, once we get started, we move down here to phase two, which is informed pessimism, because we start, right? You open your shop, you're very excited, and then what happens? You get no traffic, you get no sales. You're like, is this even real? Is this even going to work? Are people even going to buy my thing? And you get upset. You get frustrated. The human brain starts to kick into overdrive and try and protect us and say, like, hey, let's just stop this, right? Let's just stop this pain. Let's just stop these doubts. Let's just stop the frustration. It's not fun, right? So then quickly, if you decide to keep going and didn't quit yet, you quickly go to the valley of despair. And this is usually where most people quit, right? They stop because it gets really, really tough. You're like, I just can't get this thing going. This is just too much work, too much pain, too much discomfort. I'm going to just stop this madness now. And most people quit. The majority of Etsy sellers quit within the first year, right? An overwhelming majority because of the psychology of this. But the good news is if you try and push yourself and like, all right, I'm in the valley of despair right now. This sucks. My mind doesn't like it, but I'm going to keep going anyways, despite my feelings, despite what my body is telling me to do, my mind's telling me to do. You push through it. You are going to, and you keep taking action, right? A lot of this is just not sitting back, right? You're going to keep taking action so you can keep learning and growing. You're eventually going to reach the informed optimism where it's like, okay, I know this is going to stink a little bit. I know that this is going to be a little painful while I'm trying to figure this out, but I'm still going to do it because I know that I can figure this out. I know I can get momentum if I push past this and keep going. So now it's a little bit, you get the optimism back and you start to get maybe a little bit excited again. And then, you decide to keep pushing and learning and growing, and you will eventually get to the success and fulfillment, which this gap could be pretty far in between. It really depends on you as a person, how much you want to put into this, how much you're willing to learn. And again, this is where I'm going to focus. Like this all part is like part of the process, but I'm going to focus on this gap here because once you decide to keep going, that my goal is to get you to fill this gap as quickly as possible and move quickly, as quick as possible. But before that, you have to decide to get pushed past the valley of despair. So the first part of this, step one is going to be your niche, consistency, and testing. So many people just don't focus on the niche part. They focus on the money part. It's like, I want to make money online. I want to make a business. So they just like, okay, well, what is selling or what's the easiest? I'm just going to throw stuff up there. So the way that the algorithm works is you have a customer, right? And the robot algorithm, it's hard to draw on this thing. So this is your robot, basically tries to go out and find the best listings and stores to show the customer that's looking for them, right? But if you don't have a niche in mind and you're kind of selling stuff all over the place, this algorithm just has no idea who you're trying to target. So yeah, sure, you can get traffic here and there, but you're not going to capitalize on the bucket load of traffic you could if you had a niche, which is basically your roadmap. Like this, your niche is your road. So this helps you stay on track, and it also helps you serve your audience, because all the products that you're offering, your listings, are going to be on this road. It's going to be your customers driving down this road. You're offering what they want. And it's also more lines in the water and more data for the algorithm to say, okay, this shop is catering towards people who travel. So then there's a lot of products related to that. So for the traveler customers, I'm going to send a lot of them to this shop because they're literally catering to the people that travel, and they want to curate the best buying experience for their customers, so it makes Etsy more money. All the platforms are like this. Their goal is to make money, the most money. So the better their algorithms do at sending the traffic to the best shops, the best listings that fit their search intent, that fit what they're looking for, the higher likelihood of them buying is. The conversion is going to be higher. So the better job that they do, the more money they're going to make. The better job that you do, the more money you're going to make utilizing the algorithm. Where shops get in trouble is they'll offer products like way outside of the road here, like kind of all over the place. And the algorithm has no idea who you're trying to serve. Maybe this is wall art. Maybe this is baby clothes. Maybe this is funny wine mugs. That is like all over the place. So the algorithm's not going to send a lot of traffic to these listings because it knows like you have products kind of all over the place. So if someone comes for a funny wine mug and you only have one mug, and they're like, I kind of like it, but I want to see more options, you have no options. Whereas if there's this shop over here that has 20 funny wine mugs, if I could spit that out, it's like a nursery rhyme. Most of the traffic's gonna be sent here, because if they don't like this one, maybe they like this one, or maybe they like this one. It just fits the search intent better, and there's a lot more data because all of these listings have those keywords related to that. So you're basically curating all that traffic toward that niche, and then you just focus on serving that niche better. Offering more products that they may like, and it's going to make your life a lot easier than trying to kind of maybe go after the next biggest trend or the next biggest thing that may sell. And again, if you're chasing just money, like if you're not passionate, a lot of times too, this comes down to like, okay, I just want to make money. I don't really care about the items, and the items don't sell. You're going to give up a lot faster because you just don't care. You're not passionate about it. But if you're passionate about travel and you want to offer, things related to travel, even if they don't sell, you're still interested. You're still engaged. You just have to figure out how to sell them better in the future. It's just going to keep you on point when things get tough, which they inevitably are going to be tough, especially at the beginning. All right, so that's step one. Once you have that niche that you want to focus on, then you just have to be consistent with testing products, product lines, seeing what works, and seeing what gets momentum. But a lot of it just comes down to sticking to that niche, and then being consistent with listings at the forefront. At the beginning, your goal is to get out a decent number of listings and product lines just to see what's going to start to pick up momentum. Whereas if you just put up 5 listings and you're like, I just want to see what happens, that's just not enough. You got to continuously feed that algorithm over time so you can kind of start to see what works. Without that data, you're never going to see what works, and you're never going to know what to do next. So that's your goal at the beginning, and it simplifies it. A lot of times people overcomplicate this at the beginning, and you're like, oh, I try to do all these things. No. Pick a niche, serve that niche with listings consistently, a couple listings, 2 to 5 listings a week, for the next couple weeks or months. And that's it. That's all you have to do at the beginning. Step 2 is pay attention to the momentum. So like once you have this first step, right, the next step is going to be paying attention to what is getting momentum. And that starts with traffic first. Keep an eye on your listings, go into your individual listing stats. What is starting to get traffic? With traffic comes favorites. And then with traffic and favorites, eventually comes sales. So you're going to pay attention to this stuff, and you can build off of this before the sales come. If you start to get a decent amount of traffic and favorites for a particular listing, then go into that listing and see, which keywords because in your listing stats, you can see which keywords is bringing in traffic. And then can we use those keywords in existing listings, or can we create brand new listings with those keywords? Or can we create additional products, using those keywords, or products related to what's starting to bring in traffic? A good thing to keep in mind too is the average conversion rate, which basically means out of the number of visits you're getting, how many sales you're getting. So the average conversion rate is around 1%. So for every 100 visits, you're getting 1 sale. So this is the average benchmark. So that tells you, as you're looking at your stats, what to do next. So if you look at your stats, it's been like 2 months and you have like 50 visits, that's not bad. You may not have any sales yet, but keep in mind this 1% conversion rate, you need to get to 100, but you're getting traffic. You're starting to build momentum. But in the meantime, okay, that's a decent amount of traffic. Again, look at the keywords in that listing, see which ones are bringing in traffic. And then while you're waiting to see how this is going to perform, do other listings related to it. Capitalize on that momentum, and maybe one of these will take off. Maybe you're just missing the mark, or it hasn't been enough time. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of people will just not wait long enough. And keep in mind too, listings sometimes take like 6 months to take off, to start getting momentum. It takes the algorithm sometimes a lot of time. We'll have people put up a listing and it's been like, 1 week, and maybe they have 2 visits and are like, oh, this listing is terrible. It's trash. I'm going to delete it. Try again. 2 weeks is enough time. It's just not enough. So you got to get the stuff out there, and you got to let it sit and analyze it in the future and use it to your advantage. But in the meantime, you're going to take action on other things. Don't get sidetracked by these listings that aren't doing well right now. Step 2 is to go deeper. So at the beginning, right, we have our roadmap, we have our niche, and we're going to go with, we're going to go a little bit wider. Maybe we're going to try out different listings. These are all going to all serve our niche, different listings and or product lines that serve that niche. So we're going to go a little bit wider, but as we grow, as we continue to build out our shop, we're going to narrow this down a little bit. We're going to get a little tighter to that road and not as far away. And how are we going to decide where to go tighter? Well, we're going to look at what has started to pick up momentum. By this point, you should hopefully start to have some sales. And a lot of people will like, okay, I'll get a sale on this listing. Yay, that's awesome. Cha-ching. That's great. That's fantastic. Slap some high fives. Use it to yourself, because this is a lonely journey, right? So you're going to slap some high fives to yourself. That's awesome. And then what are we going to do? We're going to go this way, and we're going to do this other listing that we had planned out maybe months ago. And we're going to do a new listing based on that. What you should be doing is doing other listings related to this listing. Right? This listing has sold, so pay attention. Can you do additional listings related? Maybe it's different variations, similar subject matter. We all have ideas, right? But just because you had an idea doesn't mean you have to do it. So don't waste your time on this, which you have no idea how it's going to perform. Focus on what is already doing well and try to go deeper on that and build out additional listings and our product lines similar to that, serving that. Follow those breadcrumbs so you're not wasting time, because a lot of people will go down these other rabbit holes, and I call this shiny ball syndrome. As an entrepreneur, we all have it. We want to chase the next shiniest ball, but we got to fight back. You got to slap yourself and be like, no, I'm not going to chase this shiny ball. I'm going to focus on the ball that's maybe a little duller, but it's working right now. The tried and true ball in my shop. So focus on that, so you're not wasting time. You can move a lot faster. All right, so that is step 3. And real quick, if you guys need more help with this strategy, I teach a lot of this stuff inside my Etsy Games VIP program. So there's a link below. You guys can join. We do group coaching calls. Every new member gets a one-on-one call with me to go into your shop, talk about roadblocks, and I'll give you a strategy going forward. But most importantly, this is just a positive, safe, motivational community. You can come, hang out, ask questions from a trusted source, get help from a trusted source. and get motivation. And you don't have to be alone. I started this because when I started at Etsy, I was very alone. I didn't know who to turn to. And now there's more groups like this, but they're super expensive. This is only $10 a month, so it's very affordable. My goal is to give you as much value as other programs out there that are like literally $1,000 a month. Which you're bootstrapped, you're trying to grow your business. I don't want to do that for you. My goal is to give you a ton of value so you stay with me literally forever, which a lot of people have been with me for a very long time. So you have a positive, motivational, non-spammy or weird Facebook group that you can come to, hang out, and trust. So check that out. That is below. There is a link. I'd love to see you guys in there and help you out. If you don't want to join me, I won't hold it against you. It's all right. I'm still giving you these hopefully amazing videos on YouTube and the podcast for you guys. All right. So step 5. Marketing. All right. So once we have a good framework, we can really start focusing on marketing. And this is kind of what, people at the beginning start to try to do all this stuff at once. And that's what makes it a more frustrating. You got to layer in this stuff. Don't overwhelm yourself. Layer in, focus on these steps at the beginning so you're not overwhelming yourself. And then when we're ready, when we're starting to get some sales here and there, we can really start to market. So you have a couple options when it comes to marketing. You have marketing inside of Etsy, right? And then you have marketing outside of Etsy. Just going to put an O there since it's hard to draw on this thing. So these are the two options. Where I would focus first is marketing inside of Etsy. This is the platform that you're selling on. It's a lot easier to capitalize on the 100 million buyers that are coming to Etsy before you start to go outside of Etsy and try to generate your own traffic. So a couple of things you can do here in the marketing tab in Etsy, you can set up coupon codes for people that add items to their cart and people that favorite your items. So you want to do that. That's free email marketing. You can easily set up with a couple of clicks. Definitely make sure you do that. Running sales regularly, I would do that because it shows the discount on the landing pages. This is a great urgency builder. It's a great flag to stop people when they're searching because it has the regular price, markdown price. It's highlighted, so that's a good flag as well. So taking care of those internal marketing ads. You have Etsy ads which you can run. Be careful with that. Make sure you're getting organic sales before you start going ads, because a lot of people will make this mistake, especially at the beginning. You open your shop, you see the button for ads, and you're like, okay, I'm going to move a lot faster now. I'm going to throw money at this bad boy. What happens is you don't know if your stuff is set up appropriately. It's probably not, because you're learning. And you're just going to waste a lot of money. You're still not going to get any sales. So you have to go through this process first and learn a lot and tweak before you start throwing money at this thing. Down the road, ads are a great way to potentially increase revenue, but they're never going to be the end all be all. You're never going to generate a huge amount of sales from ads. It may get to the point where you can generate 15, 20% of your sales, and that's doing pretty good. But keep that in mind. A lot of people think like, okay, I'm going to make all this money by doing ads. It's not going to be that way. So if you can't get sales organically, ads aren't going to help you that much, and it's just going to waste a lot of money. So can't do it too early. Make sure you're focused on doing it and layering it in when it makes sense for your business. Now, other things that you can do, outside of Etsy, obviously the biggest is social media and different channels to drive traffic back to Etsy. So this is good, and it takes a lot of work, and you have to be consistent with it, just like anything. If you're gonna start posting, make sure you post every week. Be consistent. And there's a lot of social media channels to choose from. I wouldn't try to choose them all. Again, it's going to be overwhelming. Choose the ones that you're most comfortable with. I would say probably the best ways to market your business is going to be Pinterest, is going to be YouTube, is going to be a blog. Why? Because these are search engines. These are not social media. So the nice thing is your content in these platforms will always be there. It's not going to go away. Whereas if you have, if you do a Facebook post, it'll be shown the first day or two, couple of days, but then it goes away. And it's not going to be found again. They're going to get rid of it. They reward fresh new content. So whereas if you do a Pinterest pin, that's going to always be there. So when people continue to search for that type of stuff or the keywords in your pin, they can continue to find, and this can generate you traffic months and years down the road. Whereas Facebook posts, unless you're posting regularly and brand new stuff, the traffic's a lot harder to get. That's where I'd focus on the more search engine type channels than I would the social media channels, because it's going to be the same amount of work, but the work that you do here is going to benefit you long term, where this is just going to be more of a grind. So something to keep in mind. Now, if you love Instagram and certain niches, certain channels are better. If you love Instagram, you're really good at it, then do Instagram. That's fine. Or figure out a way to turn your Instagram posts into pins as well. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to do all these things thinking that you're going to, wow, I'm going to really, if I do Pinterest and social and, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, I'm really going to kill it. What's going to happen is you may do it for like a week, maybe 2, and then you're going to stop doing it altogether because you're like, this is a lot of work. It's not working. I'm not getting the momentum I thought I was going to get, and then you stop. And that's the worst thing. So pick a sustainable channel, one that you're comfortable with. Pick 1 or 2, and that's it. The last part of this is just putting this all into a system. And what I talked about was a system, but this should be the process that you go through. Once you kind of go through this framework here, these are the steps that you need to do, every single week as you're continuing to build out your shop. It's going to be for a forever thing. You're going to be constantly doing this process and not sitting it and forgetting it if you want to continue to build, if you want to continue to grow, if you want a sustainable business. You know what I mean? It's not like if you have a normal job and you go to work, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you just decide to not work Friday, and then the next week maybe you don't work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the following week maybe you take off the whole week. That's not going to be sustainable. Obviously, you're going to get fired. Same thing with your business. Your business is just going to fall flat, and it's going to be really hard to grow because you're not getting any momentum at all. So as you're following the breadcrumbs and things I talked about before, you should always be adding in new products related to your niche. And you can use tools like Allura, or even, Etsy has marketing insights, which is just okay, right? This is a new platform, but I would use Allura, which is similar to Everbee, which is similar to eRank, to research demand keywords, to use in your new listings. And new listings can be listings based on what I talked about previously, listings based on other items that are doing well, similar variation items, different things like that. And then you want to create the new listing strategically based on the items I talked about before, following product lines, following items that have done well, serving your niche with new products, and then testing different variations of those products, of those listings, to see kind of which ones work, which ones don't work. And then you're going to analyze your listing. So you're going to be constantly circling back, looking at your listing stats and seeing, okay, which listing, how long has the listing been up? What's the performance like on that listing? Should I make tweaks? Depending on how long it's been up, you can start, after 6 months, maybe start to make some tweaks from SEO standpoint, especially if it has low traffic. So the stats will tell you which direction to go. And then the last one is start improving your, improving your top performers, so, and not like, we don't want to touch our top performers, but we want to improve upon them. So with new listing, how can we leverage our top performers? Again, with other listings that are similar product line, similar niche, something in addition to what is already doing well, that like an accessory that would fit with it or something like that, and continue to build on that, and then continue to go back and look at our other listings, maybe get rid of some of the ones that are doing terribly or tweak the weak ones. So this is kind of the constant process that you guys are going to go through strategically. These are supposed to be arrows, and they do not look like arrows. But this is the process you're going to go through every single week, paying attention to everything I talked about in the prior steps of this, of this coaching call, recording, whatever it is, training. So where we're not kind of flying blind, flying through the forest. And this is the difference, right? This is the difference where the people that get a couple of sales and then they get no more for extended periods of time, or the people that get a couple sales and they get a couple more sales, and then they get consistent sales, and they continue to build and build and build. That's what I want you guys to be able to do if you're following this system at place, rather than kind of shooting in the dark and like trying to figure it out and not having a system or kind of a strategy and not thinking through this stuff that has worked. And this is a process that I've used for years, has worked really, really well for me. I've seen it work with a lot of students inside, my programs. So make sure you're sticking to this. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Hopefully this helps you get your first couple of sales, your first 100 sales, your first 500, your first 1,000. So stick with it. And it'll definitely work for you if you kind of have these strategies in mind. And again, I'd love to see you guys inside the Etsy Games VIP program. There's a link below. Come join us, hang out, get motivated, have some fun. Let's grow your business together with people that are like-minded in a positive, motivational way. That is it, guys. I'll be back soon with some more good stuff for you. Have an amazing rest of your day.